It's Friday, December 12th, 2025. The big political story today is related to the big story on the ground. Big political story today is saying that Ukraine is ready to accept Donbas demilitarized zone in concessions to end the war. It's just not true. That's the problem with it. The big military story today was that Zelenskyy was on the ground in Kupiansk because the Ukrainians cleared Kupiansk. It was just incredible. And remember, November 20th, top Russian general said to Putin, that's Gerasimov, said Kupiansk has been taken under control. He actually said that multiple times. And then on December 2nd, Putin was saying, we invite foreign media to Kupiansk we'll have a ceasefire for a few hours so they can see all around the city. And then on December 12th, that's today, Zelenskyy, hello from Kupiansk. Yep. This guy has, he's got my respect. He's got some crazy moral and physical courage. The physical courage is that at any time, drones could be coming his way, and he knows it. So he's out there, but he's out there in front of this because as a leader, what he's doing is, this is called sense making in leadership, right? What should I do? Oh no, should I fight? Well, the boss is there. He's out there on the ground in front of the Kupion sign. It's pretty clear while he's wishing them good health and good luck. All right. So that's what was going on in the battlefield. Oh, by the way, before I go on to the next part, Sergei Smirnov posted this. Putin said, if Kyiv doesn't want to discuss Trump's peace proposal, right now, all this inevitability language was trying to show we've bagged Kupiansk, we've bagged Pokrovsk, is all meant to show that Russia is inevitable and you can't resist. If Kyiv doesn't want to discuss Trump's peace proposal, they and the European warmongers must realize that the events in Kupiansk will repeat in other key areas. Well, I sure hope so, because what just happened in Kupiansk, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, go back a video or two. My last two videos were both about this. Okay, so that leads us to this. So this is going to a place, this is Le Monde, the World, the French paper, Ukraine ready to consider Donbas demilitarized zone in concessions to end the war. Why? Because Russia's got this full court press about just how awesome they are on the battlefield. With downcast eyes and a subdued voice, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz admitted on Thursday, December 11th, that Ukraine was now ready to accept territorial concessions. Kyiv has agreed to one of the major points of the negotiations with the United States and Russia by accepting the establishment of a demilitarized zone in the Donbas, Le Monde can reveal. Okay, well, it's not exactly like that. Ukraine ready to agree to a demilitarized zone? Such a zone would require the withdrawal of troops from both sides of the front line. This concession is included in the U.S. peace plan revised by Zelenskyy, was handed over to Donald Trump on Wednesday evening, but it's already been refuted by Podolyak as a mistranslation. Okay, so Podolyak, one of Zelenskyy's advisors, says this is a mistranslation. So Le Monde headline, again, Ukraine ready to accept this demilitarized zone in Donbas. It's framed as a concession. Exactly as expected, the presidential office clarified Podolyak was discussing theoretical models, not finalized decisions. French media misinterpreted his words. Territorial questions, as Zelenskyy affirmed, are resolved only at the highest political level or by the Ukrainian people. So, no, they're not just giving away big parts of Donbas in the process. Now, this is no report saying, however, this portrayal is misleading without context. Zelenskyy and Ukrainian officials have made clear that Kyiv cannot accept any plan where only Ukrainian troops must withdraw, which is kind of what the Russians want to see. Only Ukrainian troops must withdraw, or where territory is ceded unilaterally. What Ukraine has discussed is a concept, again, a concept of a buffer or demilitarized zone in a negotiated framework, not an unconditional territorial concession. So they discussed it, nothing happened with it, and it's being put forward by Le Monde as if this is some kind of major breakthrough. Okay. Other news, Ukraine will receive around $5 billion, that's billion with a B, U.S. dollars worth of military equipment from U.S. stockpiles by the end of the year. I remind you, it's December 12th, so the end of the year is right around the corner. Also, we saw this European Commission plans to allocate 90 billion euros, that's billion with a B again, in budget support for Ukraine for 2026 to 2027, according to the Budget Committee head. Under the draft reparations loan plan, aid would be split between defense production and procurement in Ukraine and EU. And okay, so 90 billion. Okay, so this can carry them. Without this kind of support, the war collapses. So with European aid, they can carry on. I saw this and I thought, I was just talking about this yesterday. Joni Escola says, Russia invaded Ukraine and then seized European assets located in Russia. They did. They seized European planes that were there and other assets. Russia and its supporters argue that Europe has no right to transfer Russia's frozen assets to Ukraine. Okay, now I'm on the side where I've been saying consistently all the way through this, don't do this. You'll mess with the banking system. It'll be bad. And then, if they're using the interest or having the loan collateralized by it, that's less bad. But he's got a decent point here in that Russia already did this. So for them to be saying, don't do this to us, otherwise this will be war with Europe or whatever. The gall. I mean, it's really remarkable. Okay, this is Ursula von der Leyen talking about elections. And, the way it's got to work is the people in Ukraine have to determine when the elections happen.
General, it is not on us and on nobody when it comes to election, to decide who the leader of the country will be, but on the people of this country. That's very clear. That's the sovereignty of the...
She meant the sovereignty, it's just the way she pronounced it, the sovereignty of the people in Ukraine.
Of the voters. And this must be protected. This is one of the reasons, for example, why we have proposed the democracy shield now, because this is a phenomenon that we see all over the place, that we really have to shield our democracy and make sure that elections are fair and free. That's the crown jewel of our democracies.
You saying that, does that make you worried?
This goes in general for anybody. It's the voters who decide who is the leaders, and nobody else is supposed to interfere without any question.
That's right. That's a rebuke to Trump and Putin pushing on this narrative, and Zelenskyy saying, "Look, if you want to have a vote, fine, we'll have a vote." I think after what we saw today, where is it? As we see Zelenskyy standing out there in front of that, it's not a campaign, but I think Zelenskyy doesn't have that much to worry about. Okay, so we see some other issues here. Ukraine Special Operations Forces and Black Spark rebel movement were working together, conducting a special operation in the Caspian Sea. I talked about it this morning, but I want to give a little bit more light to it. They struck 2 vessels by the shores of the Kalmyka Republic. The vessels were transporting weapons and military equipment under U.S. sanctions due to the participation in supplying military cargo between Iran and Russia, these 2 ships. But the rebel movement provided the details and information about the route and the cargo of the vessels. So that's how they figured out which ones to hit all the way in the Caspian Sea. Pretty amazing. A 240,000 Ukrainian naval drone disables a $30 million tanker. Insurance costs jumped 250%. That's one of the big results of this kind of thing. Shipping firms walk away. Sanctions have struggled, yet drones are changing the math of Russia's oil exports, not by sinking ships, but by making every voyage more expensive and risky, right? So, because if they can't get insured, it's going to be difficult for them to be getting out there. Okay, a little publicized Putin decree forces foreign men to choose between the army and losing their chance to stay in Russia. A Radio Free Europe, Radio Liberty investigation has found. So this is one of the ways that they backfill the military. Russia was caught using its Shadow Fleet tankers to launch drones in German cities. So this is one report, and here's a little bit more about this kind of thing. Drones that monitored military facilities in Europe were launched from civilian ships located near the coast, according to Military. This is evidenced by an investigation by a group of German journalists. We are talking about flights of unknown drones in Germany and the Netherlands. Journalists were interested in the fact that at the same time, cargo ships were located near the coast of these countries, which behaved atypically. They were anchored for no apparent reason or made strange maneuvers. And so, yeah. So, yeah, we see what's going on. Okay. In Russia, not a day without bans. YouTube banned and Twitter's banned and so on and so forth, right? Well, next victim has been Russia found a new enemy, the Sims. Sim City, right? Teenagers must be urgently saved from the possibility of building their dream home and getting a pet. This is clearly the path to moral decay. Sim City is being banned? Okay. Attention, we've talked a lot about like Tucker Carlson was platforming folks about, that denying the Holocaust and that sort of thing. And the Russians talk about how it's the Ukrainians are Nazis. Well, apparently the main ideologist and leader of the libertarian movement in Russia is also saying, I'm not ashamed of the Holocaust. What? I mean, okay, so yeah, I don't even need to keep commenting on that. Meanwhile, Putin is meeting with the president of Iran. The axis of evil continues becoming stronger. He said cooperation between the two countries was growing. Now, this post was making a big deal about his movement of his legs. He's scratching his hand, chewing his lip. That's not my thing here. My thing is these two countries are getting tighter and tighter and tighter. And, couple that with Holocaust deniers and all kinds of stuff. Yeah. I saw this cartoon and I thought, it is kind of what's happening in the world. Putin and Xi looking at menus and Putin looking at, I want this one and that one, Ukraine and Estonia and Lithuania and Latvia. And yeah. And meanwhile, you have Trump and you have Modi looking on, just sitting at the table while Xi is looking at Taiwan as well. Last little bit, my shout out is to Andrew Venegas, a graduate Patreon supporter. Thank you, Andrew. Today, says Darth Putin, today is Russia's Constitution Day. If Ukraine changes its constitution to make my invasion illegal, I promise to change the Russian constitution to make my next invasion illegal. Even though it already says that invasions are illegal, right? They're just rules. All right, my friends, that's all that I have for today. Thank you for the time, the likes, the shares, and the subscribes. And thank you for being the kind of person who cares about Ukraine.